Welcome back. Obviously, we are in a crisis right now. There is an assault across the government from the Trump administration on men and women who work for this country on our behalf. And a lot of them are in danger. A lot of them have a lot of information too that could be helpful. So joining us right now, and I'm really glad we could have this conversation because I think it's an incredibly important conversation, and I think it may actually benefit a lot of our listeners. Joining us from Whistleblower Aid, I am so happy to once again speak with Andrew Bakaj and Naomi Seligman. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Joe. How are you?
Well, Naomi,
Yeah,
I think it's always a loaded question these days.
I know. I
Uh,
always just say I don't know. Just so your listeners know, it's Andrew Bakaj because it's a
Bakaj.
hard one.
Well, you had spelled it out for me before, and I'm looking at it right now, and the way I had it, I, I
Not a problem. Not a
sorry,
problem.
sorry, Andrew.
It's
I've
good.
been it's something that I've been, dealing with in my entire life. It's
Okay,
something I just used to. It's fine.
okay, all right. Well, we've got that straight. Well, Naomi, why don't I start with you and just take a
Sure.
few minutes and remind everyone about your organization, Whistleblower Aid.
Sure. Thanks, Joe. So, Whistleblower Aid is a nonprofit legal organization that supports whistleblowers in both the public and private sectors. We make sure that they can report out what they've experienced and witnessed safely, legally, and responsibly. We have worked on, at this point, dozens and dozens and dozens of cases. We were founded in 2017 by a whistleblower from the State Department who found that although he had the means to be able to support his whistleblowing lawfully, most people cannot. It's an expensive process. So we offer our services pro bono, so once we vet a case and decide that we're going to take on that case and retain that client, we provide our services for free. We also work with them in a whole range of ways. So the way our model works, it's a holistic model. So we not only are doing the legal work, which means once they come in, and Andrew can talk about this for just 20 seconds to make sure that folks understand what that is. We're also supporting them in the work in liaising with Congress and any other agencies. And we're also making sure that their communications, if they are public, which 50% of our whistleblowers are not public because they're national security whistleblowers, um, we make sure that they are supported every step of the way through their communications. And we also have a really warm embrace, and we make sure that they are supported, whether it is physical or digital security. If they're, oftentimes whistleblowers can be ostracized, and if their only friend left in the world, and Joe, you'll like this best, is a dog, we make sure that their vet bills are paid. We make sure that they are safe and secure and can come out of whistleblowing a whole person.
Wow, I think it's so important for everyone to understand, like, and I think when the way you describe the support, Naomi, you make it realize this is a big undertaking for many people, and it is life changing, and offering that full support is so critical. Andrew, let me go to you because you have you have you've worked at the CIA. You have worked in national security law firms. You are the chief counsel. You have been through a lot in the whistleblower world. Talk a little bit about the moment we're in, and just kind of the magnitude of what we may be facing.
Sure. I would say that at the best of times, becoming a whistleblower and contemplating going down that journey, it's a lot. It's challenging, right? You're taking a significant risk and, potentially, to do the right thing, exposing yourself for potential retaliation through by being demoted or even fired. And we successfully worked with clients to make sure that the truth comes out, that they're protected and they can continue on with their lives in a successful way. But to your point, things are really different right now. The president has not been shy about revenge against those who he's perceived as being wronged or have wronged him. And right now, he's taken basically a mallet against various oversight bodies like the IG's office, the Inspector General's offices, and the Office of Government Ethics, where a lot of our clients would be filing disclosures or complaints with. So it's been, we're at a really pivotal place right now in terms of where we are in our country. But that doesn't mean that all hope is lost. And I think that's a really important thing to consider is that, that there are places where whistleblowers can turn to safely, that we have the ability to ensure that whether it's members of Congress or other investigative bodies get the information that they need, or even going through the court process to get the information they need to try and prevent bad things from happening. It's interesting because, I worked within Inspector General's offices, both at DOD and CIA. And, everybody thinks about investigations that are conducted, right? Everybody's afraid of the Inspector General's office because they're viewed as internal investigations. But they do more than just investigations. They do proactive audits and inspections. And the reason why that's important is because those activities identify problems that may occur and prevent bad things from happening. So, for example, have you ever heard of a situation where power units on an F-15 or a series of F-15s failed and they started going down? No. Have you ever heard of a situation where VX nerve gas being stored at a military facility here within the United States was leaking and caused irreparable harm to the surrounding population? The answer is no. And that's because whistleblowers came forward when I was in government to disclose those issues that triggered audits, inspections, as well as investigations. And DOD and other agencies were able to get to the bottom of it, prevent bad things from happening. And that's the hallmark of success, frankly, in terms of what the government and its oversight bodies, accountability bodies are supposed to do. It's not just saying, hey, somebody did something wrong here, let's go and investigate them. It's let's make sure that we get to the bottom of problems before they fester. And that goes back to why whistleblowers are important.
And I saw something that you had written on Blue Sky actually about that the Trump administration is continuing to destroy path to accountability, and they've attacked Special Counsel Hampton, Dellinger. They've gone after these inspectors general. This is it's like the way you describe it, Andrew. It's like a double-edged sword because, for one thing, those are folks. If you're in the government and you want to report something, that's who you go to. But also, so that puts people at risk for not having someone to go to. But also, the things that they could try and prevent bad things from happening aren't going to happen. It's like the worst of all worlds.
It's I don't know if this is the right analogy or a phrase, but one of my former colleagues used to say it's like a self-licking ice cream cone, right? It's basically you've got a situation where the very people who, will prevent bad things from happening, which by the way, anytime whoever the president is, even if it's not, the office of the president's fault, they'll get blamed for whatever goes wrong, right? And of course, no president wants to have, planes go down while they're president, and, FAA systems go down. But to your point, if you're removing all of these accountability offices from being able to function, at some point things are going to start crashing. Or it certainly increases the likelihood for it. I'll give you another example of why I'm really concerned about, what's been happening. And, just a couple of days ago, or was it a week? To be honest, it's starting to all kind of get confusing because there's so much happening. The CIA sent over names of probationary employees to the White House, the first name's last initial, but on an unclassified system. Now, government systems, as we know, are secure to a point. If it's classified, of course, as highly secure. But we also have Elon Musk and the Doge team rummaging through files and going into systems. The possibility of those names being leaked is there. But even putting that aside, and if it wasn't nefarious at worst, I think at best it's sloppiness. Our partners, our intelligence partners, the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and others, they're looking at this, and we rely on information, on intelligence from our partners to keep us safe. I mean, think about this. 9/11 was an intelligence failure. Okay. That was a byproduct in part of the FBI and the CIA and other agencies failing to share information. And what did it lead to? It led to a cataclysmic event here on the homeland, on U.S. soil, right? If our partners don't trust us to be able to share information that we need, because again, yes, we're the United States, but we can't be everywhere all the time, right? It's the reality of how the world works. We rely on our partners, and they rely on us. If they're not going to give us that information, we're going to be deaf. We're not going to know what's happening. We're not going to be able to prevent those things from happening again. A lot of successes that do happen um, are nobody knows about because a non-event that was stopped is, a non-event,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yep.
that's where I'm really concerned. And that goes back to what we were talking about when what you raised at the beginning, which is where are we today? And I would say we are in a place where we need people to have the courage and the willingness to step forward and bring information to light, bring things to light so that way, we can cor correct the path that we're going down. And it's not impossible. And yes, we have IGs who have been removed. We've had, to your point, the special counsel was removed. I understand that there's been a stay that's been issued, so hopefully Mr. Dellinger will be back. But though we're looking at other alternative options at whistleblower aid, and we're looking at doing things in a way that protect our clients as well. So, for example, just the other day, I think the Senate Democrats put out a website about a whistleblower portal that exists.
Yep.
Well, I applaud that initial step, but there are things that need to be really thought about in terms of how they launch that. It looks like it's almost like a Google type of document. I don't think it is, but that's what it has, that vibe to it. And it asks for names and a number of things that can create exposure for potential whistleblowers. And so I applaud that as a first step, but whistleblowers, one, don't have to go it alone, and two, have counsel, whether it's whistleblower Aid or others. When we're here to help provide assistance, guidance, support, as Naomi has said, in a variety of ways to get the information out there, to have the impact and to protect them. And again, it's not the end. This is the time for people um, to know that it's time to step up and do what's right, and you can.
Really, really important. And your Libby Lou, your CEO, there's a
Mhm.
statement on whistleblower.org advising people, if you decide to do that, don't use your government device to contact the
Mhm.
Senate portal. Don't share classified information without advice of counsel, and seek legal representation as soon as possible. So, Naomi, if someone is thinking about, reaching out to the Senate or reaching out to you, what's the process? What's the process like? Like, what's the first contact, and where does it go from there? Just kind of fill in some of our, because I really, we have a lot of listeners who are
Mhm.
involved, work for government. We have a lot of listeners who know someone who worked for government. We have a lot of listeners who may actually benefit from this process.
Sure. And there's a lot of brave souls out there. And there's also a lot of fear, right? We know
Yeah.
that, these are extraordinary, unprecedented attacks to blow through democratic norms. And so we're in a new moment. Now, we have been doing this at Whistleblower Aid for years and years. So there are all these extraordinary efforts out there to help folks in the pro-democracy movement. And so we are allying with them. But what we do remains the same. So if you have experienced or witnessed wrongdoing, malfeasance, mismanagement, a whole range of illegalities, you should reach out to us. You can reach out to us. There's a contact on whistleblower.aid.org. There is a way to get in touch with us via Signal, which is the safest way to be in touch. And when you do, you will be contacted by by someone on our staff who can work with you to do an intake to find out what you've experienced. We will take that information, evaluate that information. Andrew Bakaj over here leads that process, and we evaluate that information. And we only work with whistleblowers, people of conscience whose clear intent is the public good. So we don't work for financial gain. We work to make sure that the outcome is going to make the world a better, safer place. And once we decide that it's a good fit to retain a client, they then come and we have, very detailed conversations with them in order to better understand everything they know. And most often they will do a declaration, which will be their narrative, what they experienced in their own words, and also a disclosure, which is the legal narrative with evidence. And that is usually really voluminous. And then when we have those documents, we then decide what are the agencies, local, state, federal, that need to receive those documents in order to investigate further. At the same time, we're working with Congress, and we're in touch with members of the Senate, members of the House, committee members, um, for them to better understand what our client, the information that our client has, and we will create briefings, develop briefings with those members of Congress with our client. And those can lead to so many different impactful results. So, for example, there could be, someone like Frances Haugen from Facebook who is our client. There can be open hearings, or Mudge from Twitter, open hearings, or it could be closed door hearings, and there could be legislation that results because our clients are issue experts. So they can come in and help members of Congress understand issues better. Especially, a lot of the work we do is around tech and tech whistleblowers. And as we know, we are in a moment we're calling a vertical, tech and tyranny. Right now, we know that, they are lockstep when we have, Elon Musk and Trump running the government. And so we're working with them, to help better understand what's going on in those companies as well. At the same time, we are then working on a media strategy if it is a public client and a public case, and we'll work with trusted partners in the media to make sure that they tell our client's story in the most appropriate, smartest, impactful way. And then we're working on partnerships with like-minded organizations. So we have, these alliances, depending on, again, depending on the subject matter. But right now, there's some really phenomenal organizations that are coming out in this moment, like the Public Service Alliance, which is working with a whole range of organizations to help government employees better understand what they should be doing in this moment. And they actually have resources on their site for government employees to look at, which I would highly recommend. But we hold their hand all the way through the process. So, we're with them before, during, and after. And even when the process is done, we can help them, find jobs. We can help them, in a million different ways. And sometimes our clients are there with us for years. So it really becomes part of this bigger movement that we've been leading for whistleblowers, and supporting they and their families.
Man, it's so important. And I just, and this is just what I want to ask you one more question, Andrew. So, you've been in government, you've been up close with this. This is obviously a different moment than anything we've ever seen. So, what's your advice? What is your advice to someone who is willing and thinking of taking those first steps that Naomi just advised in terms of what they can do for the greater good?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I think that they need to do is take a deep breath,
Yeah.
right? Because I think that, as we've heard a lot of folks talking about, what the administration is doing is they're flooding the zone. We've heard that phrase a lot, right? And it's true. And in doing that, it creates a lot of panic and fatigue. But the first thing that I would say is take a deep breath, steady yourself, um, get yourself into a clear mindset, because uh, there is extraordinary value in moving with deliberate speed, but not moving so quickly that you're not able to see what's happening. And once you do that, to take the breath, do reach out. I would highly recommend that prospective whistleblowers, particularly those working within the government, reach out to Whistleblower Aid. We do use encrypted apps like Signal, and actually our CEO, Libby, was one of the individuals who was behind the creation of Signal. And it's one of the most secure devices or apps out there for encrypted communication. Don't email from your government systems to anybody, to any attorneys, or even Whistleblower Aid, because obviously those systems are monitored. And we also want to ensure that we maintain attorney-client privilege, because we are, after all, a nonprofit law firm providing legal services. The other thing that I would say is to your listeners who are not in the federal sector or federal employees, but are looking to help. One thing that I just want to flag is that, we are at Whistleblower Aid and our partners up against, Goliath. We are the David and Goliath. I mean, Naomi mentioned when we were handling the Frances Haugen case, and she was the Facebook whistleblower. At the time, she had a GoFundMe, and we were up against $1 trillion company. Our federal employees have a public service paycheck when we're up against at least two billionaires with the president and Elon Musk. And so we are partnering with, attorneys who are the best and brightest in litigation and civil liberties issues on matters involving the intelligence community. I mean, I did that when with Whistleblower Aid and my colleague Mark Zaid, when we represented the anonymous whistleblower who led to the first impeachment, the intelligence community whistleblower. We work in a collaborative, effective way to bring truth to light so that those in the positions of power can be held to account for what they are doing and not doing. But that takes resources, that takes time, that takes expertise. And that's not something that can be slapped together at the last minute. So if there's one thing that those listeners can do is certainly take a look at whistleblower.org. We do rely on donations to be able to make that happen. But then for your federal employees, your government contractors, grantees from USAID, please contact us. I mean, we are working, we are working nonstop in a very collaborative way to have impact. And by the
And just
way,
importantly, can I just add? I think it'd
Mhm.
be really important to add that we are under attack. Andrew, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I don't
No,
know
no, go
if you
right
could
ahead.
talk about our co-founder, Mark Zaid, for a minute, what's happened to him, because I think that's really important for your listeners to understand, Joe.
Oh yeah, just the other day, the New York Post broke a story that said that Mark Zaid's security clearance has been revoked by the president because of his work in the first impeachment, none otherwise. I actually Mark contacted me, like he called me, he was like, "Did you see this?" And I said, "Yeah." They asked me, "Is my clearance been revoked?" I said, "I have no idea." Which, by the way, we have not been formally notified of any action. We're just seeing this in
In the
press
New York
reports,
Post.
but it's happening. And he and I have been put on hit lists because of our work during the first impeachment. And during the first impeachment, we actually had to have security both for ourselves and our client to ensure their safety. So the threats are real, but again, it's mitigatable. And that's something that we work through regularly.
Wow. I am so glad you could take the time to talk to us. I thought it was an important conversation to have given the moment. It's always an important conversation, but especially now. Whistleblower.org, WB Aid Law on Blue Sky, Naomi Seligman's on Blue Sky, Andrew Bakaj on Blue Sky, BAKAJ. Thank you. Thank you both so much for taking the time. And thank you for the work you're doing. Seriously, it's so important.
Yes. Thank you. And I just want everybody to know, don't lose hope. Do not give up.
Thank you.
Yes, we are the resistance. Thanks, Joe.
Bye, Naomi.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Andrew.
Bye.
Let's stay in touch. Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to take a break here on the Michelangelo Signorile Show. Be back in just a few minutes.
The Michelangelo Signorile Show on Sirius XM.